Today, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to give you what is the greatest fan fiction theory of all time. Willy Wonka is actually a Starfleet captain. Willy Wonka is a Starfleet captain, obviously from the future, goes through some type of time warp, a distortion of the space-time continuum, winds up back in time, uses the chocolate factory to disguise this amazing technology that he has from his ship, which crashes, but he salvages it, uses the chocolate factory to hide all of this stuff until he can get it fixed and then get back to his own time. Let's take a closer look, shall we? First thing we need to understand about Willy Wonka is that he is a trickster. We do not know if he's telling the truth or if he's lying. It's weird. When Willy Wonka makes his first appearance, we see that he's playing with us. He's pretending to be old and disabled. He has a cane. He's walking. The cane gets stuck. He's about to fall over. Does a little flip spin move, comes up, and it's Wonka. From that moment on, we don't know if this man is lying to us, telling us the truth. We don't know what to expect from Wonka. Before we go any further and take a closer look at Willy Wonka's technology, let's take a look at his crew. Willy Wonka's crew has all died except for his first officer, which is Slugsworth. Slugsworth is an alien that has magic powers of some sort, because every alien on Star Trek has some type of superhuman ability. The Oompa Loompas are aliens. There's no reason whatsoever for these people to have orange faces and green hair. We've seen orange-faced, green-hair people in Star Trek all the time. Guess what? They're aliens. So Willy Wonka was on some mission to save the Oompa Loompas from the Wang Doodles and the Snoz Bangers, whoever, and he partly accomplishes this goal. He saves a small number of them. They are with him when the ship goes through a distortion in the space-time continuum, winds up crash landing on Earth. So let's take a look at the technology that Willy Wonka has that comes from Star Trek. This is amazing. So let's take a look at the kids and how those technologies affected these kids. Now, one of the most powerful technologies that's used in Star Trek is the teleporter. Almost at the end of this movie, we see Mike TV actually teleported, but there's a malfunction. Thing always goes wrong in Star Trek anyway, but I posit that Willy Wonka has perfected all of this technology. The entire reason why he sent out the golden tickets is because he needs to start grooming a very special child named Charlie Bucket. I'll get to why that is at the end of this video. However, Willy Wonka sends Mike TV through the teleporter and he comes out really tiny. But this is exactly Star Trek technology. Keep in mind, this is very important, that Mike TV comes out small. This supports the theory that Willy Wonka has actually perfected this technology. He deliberately wants Mike TV to fail by causing this malfunction. He can reverse it. Willy Wonka has taken regular geese, manipulated their genetic structure with his teleporter to cause them to be extraordinarily large and lay golden eggs. And here is a huge point about why Willy Wonka is from the future and from Starfleet. Because his technology that he has in this chocolate factory is worth literally not millions, not billions, but trillions. Trillions and trillions. Hundreds of trillions of dollars. A teleporter? Are you serious? That would put all of transportation out of business, because you can just teleport somewhere. I mean, come on, man. Not only can he shrink, but he can enlarge, or he can just teleport anyone from anywhere. This is the reason why Willy Wonka is completely and totally not bothered in any way whatsoever whenever these kids are in what is life-threatening situations, like my man Augustus Gloop, when he gets stuck in a pipe and goes up, and whether it's going to go to the boiler or not doesn't matter. He's just teleported out of there. And even at the end of this movie, Charlie Bucket is like, hey, Mr. Wonka, these kids aren't really going to be all messed up, are they? He's like, no, they're going to be fine. They're just going to go back to their own little miserable selves. He's not even remotely worried about it. It's like, help, police, murder. Another one, Veruca Salt falls down the chute. She doesn't hit the bottom. And so does her father. They get teleported out of there and they're gone. Let's go back to Augustus Gloop. One of the things that we see from Next Generation is the invention of the holodeck. So I posit to you that the chocolate room is all just a holodeck. Just like on Star Trek, you can eat, you can swim, boat, you can ride horses, all in the holodeck. In fact, the holodeck almost always malfunctions in some way anyway. It was an interesting plot device for Star Trek. But the most important thing is that when you're in the holodeck, you don't really know if you're in the holodeck or not. That's how real that simulator is. There are a few holograms that he creates, like the Wonka Wash and the Chocolate Room, that are just there to throw them off. I'm going to get to why that is a little bit later in this video. But let's move on to the next one. We have Violet Beauregard. This is the gum chewing girl. One of the most fascinating technologies in all of Star Trek are the replicators. The replicating technology is used to replicate food, clothing, and various other things. If you guys are fans of the Orville, it's the replicator that basically resets the economic structure of planet Earth. So these replicators are very important. Now, what does Willy Wonka actually do? He creates a type of replicator because he already has this technology from his ship. So he posits that it always goes wrong, there's a malfunction, but no. Willy Wonka sabotaged this thing to go wrong because he knows Violet Beauregard is going to eat this thing. He has handpicked all of these kids anyway, which is why Slugsworth, his first officer, an alien, knows exactly where these kids are, exactly when they find the golden ticket. Slugsworth is actually teleporting to those places and being teleported back. But at any rate, Willy Wonka actually has the replicating technology. He uses it to create something very important, the everlasting gobstopper. Now think about it. The everlasting gobstopper is this candy that you can suck on and it never, ever, ever goes away. This everlasting gobstopper, some candy that you can suck on that never goes away, is in fact a perpetual motion machine, which, believe it or not, is actually impossible. So forget all those videos that you see. Even in Star Trek, it's not possible. If you have some type of object that can do work while emitting very, very low levels of energy, it looks like a dilithium crystal. Willy Wonka has invented a substitute for dilithium crystals, but he calls them everlasting gobstoppers. So if this thing can do work and lose energy on a level that's so low that it's undetectable, this is actually a dilithium crystal. Willy Wonka has invented a substitute for a dilithium crystal. Now we find out at the end, and it is very strongly implied, that he doesn't actually give them an everlasting gobstopper. He gives them fakes. But Willy Wonka does boast that he has the ability to create it. And we can believe that he does. Let's move on to Veruca Salt. Now, like I said earlier, there are geese that lay golden eggs. This is part of the teleportation technology that's used in reverse to actually take these geese and make them larger. They can lay golden eggs because Willy Wonka can manipulate the DNA of that which he teleports. We've seen this in Star Trek a lot. We saw it when Dr. Pulaski got infected with that viral whatever thing and she was all aging real fast, and then they used the hair from her and reverted her back. I mean, this happens all the time. Don't even get me started with Tuvix. This also strongly implies that Willy Wonka is actually from the Next Generation Voyager Deep Space Nine era. He's from somewhere in there because that's the technology that we see in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Also, the teleportation device, when Veruca and her father actually fall, they don't actually hit anything. They get teleported out of there because the Oompa Loompas are actually in control of all the technology while it's going on. They're basically watching this on screens and making sure that everything turns out all right. Charlie is an interesting character because when we get to the end, we realize that the whole thing is really designed to test Charlie. There's something special about Charlie. I'll get to this at the end though, but what technology do they have that actually tempts Charlie Bucket? The fizzy lifting drinks. Now we've seen in Star Trek, I think it was either Voyager or Deep Space Nine, where there's this lady, she's an alien. She's from a planet whose gravity is much less than that of Earth. So in her room, they lower the gravity and she wears this like gravity boots or something like this. But at any rate, she has access to having the gravity lowered. And that's all we see with the fizzy lifting drinks. You got the Oompa Loompas actually controlling what is again another holodeck. And when they drink it, they just basically turn the gravitational field to a lower setting. They float up right before they're about to die. They turn it back on. Whether they burped or not is irrelevant. I think that this technology at the end of this movie absolutely makes this entire fan fiction theory very legitimate. Because at the end, Willy Wonka, Grandpa Joe, and Charlie Bucket are in the Wonkavator. Now, there's a knob there that says 5,000. It looks like it's negative to 0 to 5,000. So Willy Wonka is 5,000 something underground. So for whatever reason, he needed to keep a chocolate factory 5,000 feet, 5,000 meters, 5,000 miles for all we know underground. And he uses this Wonkavator to get up. The Wonkavator has one button that's been programmed to fly in a very specific direction, straight up. Willy Wonka implies that he's pushed every single button. He's used this technology. When it crashes through the ceiling, which should have killed them all, not a scratch on them, because it has a shield, a deflector shield. This Wonkavator, this orb, this device functions exactly like a Starfleet ship shuttlecraft. Willy Wonka has manipulated this thing from a Starfleet shuttlecraft, which is why it can fly with absolutely no moving parts. I believe that Willy Wonka's interest in Charlie Bucket, grooming Charlie Bucket to be able to make wise decisions about having this technology, is that Charlie Bucket will become instrumental in the development of Starfleet. Before Wonka actually went back in time, there was some man, Dr. Charlie Bucket, who was instrumental at inventing these technologies. So Willy Wonka has to go back in time, fix the technologies that he has, devise the idea, the scheme of the golden tickets, get his alien first officer, Slugsworth, and have his crew of Oompa Loompas actually set everything into motion. So that's my fan fiction theory, ladies and gentlemen. Willy Wonka is a Starfleet ship captain. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I decided to take a break and do something a little silly because I'm such a fan of Willy Wonka and Star Trek. So if you guys are interested, I do have my Altissimo book for tenor and my Altissimo book for alto. If you like this kind of stuff, you can buy me a piece of cake. I will put a link in the description below for all of that. Okay, see ya!